Hey everyone, Noir here. Let's get into today's Reddit story.
Lauren. That is my name, and I am 31 years old. I found out I had been fired from my own family's company through a group text that even included the office intern. The message came from my father at exactly 6:47 in the morning. The board has decided to restructure leadership. Your position is being eliminated effective immediately. Human Resources will send you the details. That was all it said. 11 years of my life had been reduced to 2 sentences and a group message that also included Elisa, the 23-year-old we had hired 6 months earlier to run our social media. I sat on the edge of my bed, still wearing the clothes I had worn the night before when I closed a deal. I read the message 3 times. That deal, by the way, had taken me 4 months to land. It was Crestview Logistics, our biggest account by far. That one client was worth more than our next 3 largest accounts combined. I had personally flown to Ohio twice to walk their operations team through our onboarding process. I had shared dinner with their chief financial officer and his family. I built that relationship piece by piece while my father spent his time on the golf course with men who had owed him favors for years. I called him right away. He did not answer. Then, I called my mother. She is the company's chief financial officer, and for the past 11 years, she had approved every expense report I ever submitted without questioning a single one. She answered on the 4th ring. The second I heard her voice, I could tell she had already prepared for this conversation. It sounded flat, careful, and completely rehearsed. "It's a business decision, Lauren," she said. "Your brother is taking over client relations. We felt the time had come." My brother Tyler is 28 years old. He had been working at the company for only 8 months after his previous business failed. His last idea was an application where people rated the cleanliness of gas station bathrooms. It burned through the startup money our parents had quietly loaned him. Tyler could not tell the difference between a bill of lading and a purchase order if someone put a gun to his head. During his first month at the company, he spent more time trying to convince our father to update the logo with a modern-looking font than learning how the business actually worked. I asked my mother directly if Tyler had pushed for my job. She paused for just a little too long before answering. Then she told me Tyler brought the fresh energy the company needed. She also said my management style had become, in her words, combative with leadership. Combative. In 11 years, I had only pushed back twice. The first time was when my father wanted to lowball a vendor who had stood by our company for more than 10 years. The second was only 3 weeks earlier when Tyler suggested removing our quality control checks to speed up shipments for Crestview Logistics, the very account I had spent months building. I told him it was reckless. He complained to our father that I had undermined him in front of the team. Apparently, that conversation led to decisions I was never included in. That afternoon, I packed everything from my office. Nobody from leadership came to say goodbye. The only person who hugged me before I walked out was Elisa, the intern. Honestly, she looked more uncomfortable than I did. I drove home without turning on the radio. The silence gave me too much time to think. I kept replaying the last 11 years in my head. The birthdays I had missed because quarterly reports mattered more. The relationships that ended because I answered work calls during dinner. The constant stress that had left my body hurting in ways someone who was only 31 should not have experienced. The next morning, at 8:15, my phone rang. It was Michael Bennett, the chief financial officer of Crestview Logistics. Over the years, he had shown me pictures of his children during our quarterly meetings, and I had watched them grow up one photograph at a time. "Lauren," he said, "I heard you're no longer with the company. Is that true?" I told him it was. I kept my voice steady because after spending more than a decade in this business, you learn not to let people hear when something has knocked you down. I told him I wished the transition team the best and that I was confident they would continue taking good care of Crestview Logistics. He laughed. It was not a mean laugh. It sounded more like I had said something he simply could not believe. "Lauren," he said, "you are the care. We chose your family's company over 3 other firms that offered us lower prices because of you. My board has no idea who your brother is. To them, he's a complete stranger. If you're gone, then we need to discuss what that means for our contract." I thanked him and told him I appreciated hearing that, but I also made it clear that I had no intention of interfering with my family's business, regardless of what had happened between us. He said he understood, thanked me for my time, and ended the call. 3 hours later, my phone rang again. This time it was my father. For the first time since this whole situation started, he did not sound confident or in control. He sounded worried. He told me Crestview Logistics had officially asked the office for my direct contact information. Then he asked if I knew anything about it. I told him the truth. I had not reached out to a single client. I had not called anyone. I had not spoken to anyone about the company. But I also told him something else. Ever since my conversation with Michael, one thought had been sitting quietly in the back of my mind. It did not feel like anger anymore. It felt like clarity. I told him that maybe, for the first time in 11 years, people were finally realizing who had actually built the business they believed belonged to them. The days that followed felt like watching one domino fall after another in slow motion. I was not the one knocking them over. I was simply standing there, watching everything unfold. Less than an hour later, my father called again. This time my mother was on the call as well. Together, they asked, almost begged, if I would call Michael Bennett and reassure him that everything would be fine during the transition. I gave them the same answer I had already given Michael. I was not going to interfere with the company. I was not going to sabotage anyone, but I also refused to tell a client everything would be fine when I had no way of knowing that it would. The relationship I had built with Crestview Logistics had never depended on my job title. It existed because I had spent years earning their trust, something Tyler had not had the time or experience to do. During his first week handling the account, Tyler sent Michael a standard onboarding packet. It was the exact same package we gave brand new clients. It was full of generic language and included a company profile that did not even mention the custom terms we had negotiated with Harrow 2 years earlier. Michael forwarded the email to me. He did not ask me to fix anything. He included only one short sentence. "Is this a joke?" I never replied. There was nothing I needed to say. My silence spoke for itself. By the second week, Crestview Logistics officially informed my family's company that they would be reviewing the contract before renewal. On paper, that was routine business language. In reality, everyone in the logistics industry knows it usually means one thing. "We're already talking to your competitors." Not long after that, my father showed up at my apartment without warning on a Thursday evening. When I opened the door, I saw the same man who had started the company 30 years earlier, with nothing more than a single delivery truck. For the first time I could remember, he looked almost humble. He asked me what it would take for me to help fix the situation. I told him I had no interest in returning to a company that threw me away the moment my brother's pride needed protecting. He insisted it was never personal. According to him, they only wanted to give Tyler the opportunity to grow into a leadership role. I looked him in the eye and asked one simple question. "Do you honestly believe Tyler could have landed Crestview Logistics in the first place? And if he had, do you think he could have kept that account for the last 2 years?" He never answered me. His silence told me everything. Whether he admitted it or not, he already knew the truth. 2 days later, Michael called me again. This conversation was different. He explained that Harrow's leadership team had discussed the situation internally. They wanted to know whether I would consider working as an independent consultant or even starting my own company someday. They had no interest in staying with a business that had pushed out the person who understood their operation better than anyone else. He was not asking me to steal clients. He simply reminded me of something I had almost forgotten. Real loyalty belongs to people, not company logos. That night I thought about everything I had sacrificed over the last 11 years. The birthdays I missed because board meetings came first. The nights I stayed awake until morning so my father could present my work as the company's success in front of investors. The countless times my mother approved my ideas but never once stood up for me when it truly mattered. Then I thought about Tyler. He was sitting in an office he had never earned, trying to do a job he was never prepared for, supported by nothing more than our family name instead of real experience. That was the night I finally made my decision. It was not about getting even. It was about respecting myself. The next morning I called Michael back. I told him I was going to start my own logistics consulting firm. I planned to keep it small in the beginning and build it the same way I had built every successful client relationship throughout my career, with honesty, consistency, and trust. He did not hesitate for even a second. He told me Crestview Logistics would become my first client. Then he said he already knew 2 other companies that had quietly grown unhappy with their current logistics providers and would be interested in speaking with me. Within a month, I had signed all 3. One of those clients was Crestview Logistics, which officially ended its relationship with my family's company and moved its business to mine. After the contract was finalized, my father called me one last time. He did not raise his voice. He simply asked, almost quietly, how everything had fallen apart. I answered him honestly. I told him it happened because, for years, people had not stayed with our company because of its name. They stayed because of me. The moment I was gone, they followed the person they trusted, the one who had been creating the value all along. I still do not know what will happen to my parents' company. I do not know what the future holds for Tyler. And even now, months later, our family relationships remain fragile, distant, and unresolved. But I know one thing with complete certainty. After being cast aside, I built something from the pieces they left behind. This business belongs to me. It carries my name, my reputation, and the results of my own hard work. And this time, no one will ever be able to take it away from me with nothing more than a group text.